Welcome back here in our roundtable setting. We are very much looking forward to discuss startup and best practice with you. We have about an hour time for that, and we are also hoping for your questions so we can really answer them here in the setting. Let me first of all introduce our discussion partners. So on one hand, we have here Dr. Claudia Reinlein from CEO Robust AO. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here. The next speaker will be Dr. Matthias Bayer, CEO Space Optics.
Good afternoon.
And I have to say, I just learned that he has space socks. So maybe we'll have a tiny highlight on that afterwards. Okay, our third discussion partner is Nam Gutzeit, and he is with us here on the screen. He's Managing Director of eCeramics GmbH. And he will be here almost all the time, but he has to leave 10 minutes early. So if you have questions you would like to ask him directly, be quick, and I will have all your questions here and hand them in. We have one more person sitting here, and this is Dr. Sebastian Henschke, and he's Head of Digital Innovation Hub Photonics for Fraunhofer IOF. And he supports startups and licensing projects in optics and photonics in Beutenberg. And he also coached and supported Matthias Bayer and Claudia Reinlein. So we are very much looking forward to your insights as well. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We already said we want you to be part of the discussion. As a quick reminder, we are all sitting here without masks. Yes, because we are all tested or fully vaccinated and still keeping the distance. And if you want to send in your questions, please do so using the chat next to this window. It's over there, exactly, if you now look over there, or you can also use the Q&A chat. In the meantime, because I don't see questions, again, welcome to you. Thanks for being here. I'd like to ask one general question, and maybe all of you could just make a tiny statement. What makes a startup worth thinking about? Mr. Bayer.
So I'll be the first, yeah, thank
Yes.
you. So what makes a startup worth thinking about? So I think being your own boss is really a good motivation. So taking decisions, taking also the roadmap of your own company and thinking about, if you come from science, also outside a little bit more into the business. So this was a big motivation for myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
being your own boss, nice. Nam Gutzeit, how was it for you? What was your motivation?
Yeah, also a bit like Matthias, you can be a bit your own boss, but also do a bit your own way. I think this is, for me, it's more important to have my own way and make my own decisions.
Nice, super important. Thank you. Mrs. Reinlein, how about you?
Well, it was the same for me, being my own boss. And also what is interesting is, of course, earning your own money. I mean, building your own company and have your own company is really worth thinking about, I think.
Okay. What would you like to ask, Mr. Henschke?
To ask or to add?
To add and to ask, both. Sorry.
I'm not surprised at all, because actually autonomy is a very important motivation for a lot of entrepreneurs. We know from research that is one of the main themes why people actually found their companies. Another one is building wealth, but some researchers actually say that you have to weigh between the two, and but I would say that autonomy, especially in the high-tech startups that I've counseled and I've been coaching so far, autonomy has been the main motive, I would say.
Okay, so everybody wants autonomy. I think you're all now sitting before your screens like, yes, I want to do that as well. So we need a lot of good tips, best practice examples. And again, many of the people sitting at home will say like, okay, I want to have what you have. Is there like this perfect moment, like now or next year? When is the best moment?
That's a tough question. I don't think there's a best moment. So it's a development mainly over, or mostly over months, years. think about that. So from the first thought, okay, being really an entrepreneur, starting your own company, up to scanning the market, scanning also the options that you have. So how can I develop it? How can I do it? Until then you make the final decision, and then it's still a long way to go, finding the right people, finding the right place. So I wouldn't say there is a perfect moment. I would say, okay, the market is giving you somehow, in the best case, a push, that it's really worth to do it, but that there's not like the moment to do it.
Okay, since we are just talking about your personal experience now, what was this moment for you, or this push you're talking about?
It was really the market, I would say. It was the market and also the technology, because as Space Optics is a spin-off from this Fraunhofer Institute here, and we were working with many colleagues on 20 years more or less on this technology we are doing. It was still always the feeling, okay, that's we invested so much into this technology. Now we can feel from the market there is a demand on huge amounts of these optics that we build, and this was more or less the decision: how can we now bring the demand into the market, or how can we serve the market? And based on these numbers that are required, this was clear that this can only be done in an industrial production. And so this was more or less the decision, okay, can we do that on our own? We developed the technology together here with the colleagues. We have to know how. Then let's give it a try. Yeah.
And how was that feeling?
So I'm really happy every morning when I open up the fabrication hall. And you can see what has been developed over the last months and years. So everybody's really motivated. So it's still a really good feeling.
Very nice. You can see his motivation, so that's a good starting point. Thank you for that. Mrs. Reinlein, how about you? What was like your perfect moment?
Oh, I'm not sure if there was really a perfect moment in my life, but I agree, Matthias, to the words that you said. But with me, it was also that I always wanted to have a company. Somehow I studied mechanical engineering because I thought as an engineer I will get a company later.
So you were this 10-year-old girl, like, when I'm grown up, I want to have a company.
And then I figured out that it's much harder than I thought it would be. And then, it took 20 more years, or maybe even more. Well, we don't have to go in detail on that. And then I decided, okay, then maybe now it's a good time, because I was doing research, applied research, and I learned a lot in that time, and it was really it really interested me, and it was nice work also, because it was really like different types of research, writing paper articles, writing research proposals, do the research, and I think this is really an interesting job. And if you are like a group leader, then it's you can also decide about the direction in which research field the entire group can go, and this is really something that is of large interest to me. But then it just changed a little bit with the time, that I was thinking, okay, am I going to do this 20 more years? Or can I maybe do something different? And then it was, in my case, that some technologies that we developed had a high enough maturity level in order to go that next step. And then I was thinking, okay, maybe I do it with some of my colleagues, because we already know a lot about this technology. And in another case, I had to transfer this technology to another company and so on. And it was also the case that in adaptive optics, there's not much industry here in Germany, and also in Europe, it's not so much industry. And so we were really like experts in this field. And so I decided that it's even more worth to do it in order to foster more technology development in this field.
So you were pioneers in this field also?
Yeah, I mean, adaptive optics is not a new technology, but it's not really like, there's not much industry on that. It's just research institutes do it, but it's very little research, very little industry. And so I thought there is space for that industry in other industries. Yeah. So yeah, and then it was like, okay, then things, my wish to become an entrepreneur and also the maternity level of the industry or of the technology I'm an expert of. So I decided, okay, then let's try it out and see if it works. Yeah.
So two things coming together, you first of all wanting it, but also having the experience you need in order to go this step further, and then the necessity for the product or the interest for the product. But still,
and that's also something that I find really interesting, to make a product out of it, to go not only to show that it works, but to really make a product out of it. So this is really something that is of large interest for me.
And you did it.
Yeah.
Nice. Before we come to you, Mr. Henschke, let's quickly ask Nam Goodside, how about him? What was your perfect moment?
Yeah, I think there is a perfect moment for being a founder, and it's not the perfect moment to start your own business, but it's the perfect moment to do this decision. So, in my opinion, it's very important to have an idea and trust your idea, feel confident with it, and in the best case, have some people who feel the same. Yeah. And then you should make the decision to be a founder, to make your own business, and to found your own company. And I think in this point, there is a perfect moment. So if you feel very good with it, we as eCeramics, we develop and manufacture special electronics made of multi-layer ceramic substrates. It's called LTCC. And what we had, we are like a spin-off of the Technical University of Ilmenau. And what we did in the last years in the research, we made we increased the grade of miniaturization. And this is something what's not normal in the industry, and what's not happening in the industry, because it's expensive to develop, and we have the technologies ready. And so we said, okay, this is the perfect moment now to bring this out in our own company. And so we made the decision not last year, in 2019, at the end of 2019, to make our own business. And I think this was a good point to start. And of course, with Corona, a hard time before and after the last 17 months, we can say we managed this.
Nice. This will be my question in a second. How about it? How it felt during this Corona crisis? Of course, we will have to discuss that. But let's quickly come to Dr. Henschke also. When people come to you and ask you this question about this perfect moment, if there is one, and we just heard here different insights, what do you tell them?
Interestingly, they didn't ask for the perfect moment. Actually, the people come to me when they think about, they know that there's someone who's actually responsible for the topic, entrepreneurship and starting up, spin-offs, and they come to me and ask, okay, can we talk? What is it like? It's, of the people I've counted so far, no one actually asked for the perfect moment, because, and that's something I think that is very special here at Fraunhofer IF, because it's an institute of applied research. I mean, Claudia just said that she was a group leader, Matthias was a group leader, others as well. I mean, they are working in a very responsible position, because they're doing the research, but they also are in contact with the customers of the institute, so they know the market. So they very much know actually what's going on. And that's quite different from what you hear in the general press about, starting up a business. And I would say that they're very knowledgeable about, everything that regards the background the business to be.
So it's kind of like Nam just said, the perfect moment is when you have this idea and people come to you when this perfect moment already happened, the wish.
Yeah, kind of. It's actually, I would say it's just the starting point of it. It's there's an impulse, and the idea has come from whatever side, and it's growing, I would say, within the hearts of and minds of the people actually doing it, because then you talk to one person and another, and then your project is more important. But then 2 weeks later, you think about it again, and you go on, and I think the more you work on it, the more does the desire grow actually to keep doing it and go further and further, and then at one point actually say, okay, we'll do this for sure. We will go and found a company and leave the institute and do it in a different setting. As I said, that's a little bit different from what you can hear in the general press. Very often, the idea is that students coming straight out of university, for example, are founding a company.
Does not happen, does it?
It does. In other areas, it does in other areas. But
okay.
I mean, here we're talking about high-tech businesses and deep-tech businesses, and with very high level of knowledge in specific technology fields. And you need, I would say, but that's a question I think you can answer much better, but you need quite a bit of time to actually accumulate that knowledge. I mean, you study, you do mechanical engineering, precision engineering, physics, and diploma or masters, and then do a PhD, another 5 years, and then you work as a postdoc, years counting. I mean, until you have that knowledge and know what's really going on. I mean, these are very complex products.
Yes, I imagine that. You would like to comment on that?
No, I think that's a good summary. You did it quite well.
Nice. Yeah, I think sometimes people think it's like, okay, perfect moment. Tell me when it is, and then kind of, you have your checklist. When you're still not so experienced, you kind of think that this helps, and then, as you just said, you have this wish, and then it takes 20 more years, of course, because you have to grow, you have to learn all this information, and then, like Nam Gut said, you do the founding in 2019. And then Corona comes, and you founded in 2020. You in 2021, correct?
No,
so
in 2020.
2020 as well. So how was that? I mean, was a big impact for you, or is it like so specific your field that kind of Corona didn't hit you, didn't make a big difference to start with this?
I would think it touched us in a way, but so Space Optics has been founded on the 11th of March of 2020. And in Germany, we had the first lockdown on the 13th of March. But at this point, I think nobody of us could have imagined what would come out of that. So when we were thinking about founding the company, so we already started that more than a year ago, and we already have been developed until this date. So it tackled us in some way, but in our special case, we also needed the last year to get the first financing to develop our idea about where want we manufacture the mirrors, where want we have our manufacturing hall, where do we want to, where are the customers, so how can you sell it, build up the relations. So it took us more or less the last year, so to getting all this done. So then, in addition, there was the good option that we are in Fraunhofer spin-off, and Fraunhofer supports also the spin-offs from their institutes, and there is a kind of a transition phase where you can move from a researcher to the actual spin-off, so to the entrepreneur. This helped us also a lot. Mm-hmm. So in the last year, we didn't feel the crisis so much. We felt it in a way that it was difficult to go out and to show everyone, okay, here's a new company, we're doing quite cool stuff, please come to us and talk to us, because there was no trade fair, there was nothing to present yourself. Everything was online, and our experience was this is only limited successful. So we're really looking now forward to have hopefully the first trade fair where we can present our company in November this year.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's also good, then again, as a Fraunhofer spin-off, and as Sebastian mentioned, you usually, as a researcher or working for 10 years for Fraunhofer, you usually have your network. So many people already know yourself and know the technology. This, I think, helps to also build trust.
Yeah, very important point. Networking, always important. As you all, I suppose, had your colleagues, you talked to them when you first had this idea and said, okay, I want to go this step forward. Then your colleagues give you feedback, and then you rethink, or adjust all the different methods. Still, I'm interested. It's good that for you it was not so bad, let's say, the Corona crisis, but still, fingers crossed, so that you can present yourself in November.
Yeah, so maybe another point if we before we go to cloud, yeah. So we're working in the space industry mainly. Yeah. So our customers usually come from the space industry, and usually in the space industry also the programs that they are running are really long term. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about like short term developments. It's usually many years. Mm. So even though the crisis, I think, according to my experience, didn't have such a big impact on the space industry at all. Mm-hmm. But this was completely different, of course, in other industries.
Okay, so you don't have the sale at the end of the year because your product has to go out and the next one is coming.
Yeah.
Okay, how was it for you, Mrs. Reinlein?
I started in April 2020. And in the very beginning, to be honest, I thought it will take like half a year, this Corona thing, and then in June it's all done, and then it will be normal as always. So then in last autumn, I was kind of surprised is too hard, but kind of surprised that it's still there and that the technology didn't solve the problem yet. So but in the very beginning, for me, it's like with Matthias, you are so busy with yourself and with your team and with your product. So the first half a year, I think it's not so much difference. What was the difference, of course, is if you have a family and kids, then the kindergarten is closed and the school is closed, and it's kind of hard, and you have much less time than you should have, and invest also in the business. So this was really hard, but I think it was difficult for all working people. Yeah. And what was the benefit of Corona? That some conferences were for free, so you could grab knowledge by participating in conferences without being there. This was something I liked. And also trade fairs were online, and so I took the chance to went to some trade fairs in order to get to know the technologies there and the market there, and get in contact with other people to see whether my product can solve problems there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the first half year was really from a business point of view was okay, because I could do the things online, and also to bring the for example our Zwobble, that's the name of the product, we brought to our potential customers to ask them to test it. And this was still kind of allowed. So we were okay. I mean, it's small meetings, just a couple of people, so this worked out. So yeah, and I think now it's getting more and more difficult, because if you need something in order to manufacture your product, then sometimes we have difficulties to get the glasses or the piezoelectric materials. I don't know how it is with you, if you are facing the same problems, difficulties.
It's really an issue at the moment. So I mean, we are mostly asking for metal. Yeah. Everybody would think that's tons of it in the market, but it really takes you weeks to get special metals. So it's really a logistics problem at the moment.
Yeah, and I had problem to get some glue, because there was some, I don't know, some building blown away by whatever, and there's no glue on the market anymore. So it's really, but it's the same problem for every company.
Okay.
So this
But
is
for you, it's the glue. For you, it's the metal. Namgutside, what is it for you?
For us, it's the components. Actually, we have some components where our supplier said we have a delivery time of 60 weeks. So this is a delivery time which we cannot use for give this to our customers. So this is very difficult. What made Corona with us? We have two fields of our in our company, two fields of business. This is on the one hand, this is development for our customers and manufacturing of prototyping, and in the different stages. And this was very hard at the beginning because the problem was not that our network didn't work. This was very good, but the problem was the managers of the bigger companies. They said we had to save some money. We had to be carefully with our money, and so the development or the cooperation with a very new company was not given. So this was a negative affected, and but we had time for our own product. We have a plasma lid for multi-well plates. This is an this is a product for the biotechnology, and there we developed and made a lot of steps for the development.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, it's interesting. Sometimes things come up you don't think about at the beginning at all. Of course, nobody thought about Corona, yeah. But let's come back to the very basic question. I think this one goes a tiny bit into your direction. It comes from the audience. I'll read it out to you. As a researcher, if I want to start a company, should I, A, wait until I do some innovation and start company based on that? Or B, should I start any company in scientific area with less competition? Or C, start one with more competition and more money? A tricky one. I mean, you can give tips, whatever your experiences are. I think everything is welcome here.
depends on the unit selling point of your product.
Yeah, exactly. The question sounds as if the person asking it is seeking for a checklist or a basic recipe of how to found a company in the scientific area or out of science, and I have to think of a talk my supervisor, my PhD supervisor, once gave, and it was about what's the way to write the best kind of paper in science. And he had the example of fennel salad, and said that you can have a cookbook, and it says use that much that, and salt and pepper, blah blah blah. And however, everyone actually augments that recipe a little bit in order to turn it into your own version of fennel salad. So what I want to say here is, as similar to science, I mean, in order to write a great paper, it's not the one, actually the best papers aren't the ones that follow the classic structure, because they're more the ones that are somewhat different from the rest. And I think that's something that people who are interested in founding a business should also keep in mind, and basically think about more nourishing your inner fire, so to say, and that you want to do it, and you'll find the area in which you will actually do it in the end. Whereas, the last option was C, wasn't it? In an area with more competition, yes, but more money.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like a wealth motive in terms of founding a company.
Exactly.
And you could do that if that really is your motivation. If you say, I want to become wealthy and financially independent, and I'm open to go into big time into VC, venture capital funding, so which will then push me in order to kind of grow fast. Mm-hmm. That might be the way. but actually it turns the light back to you, so to say, because you have to think about what do you want for yourself. I mean,
Okay, so
it's a personal decision.
correct me if I sum it up, not the way you thought it. I would now say, from what I understood, is first of all, know your goal. So why are you doing it? Well, as you said, if you want to get wealthy, okay, option C might be better. If you want to be innovative, then go in this field, of course. So it depends on where you want to go. I would add that the structure, of course, is there. Let's stick with the comparison of the paper. So you have the structure, but you have to fill it with the right content, because just having a nice structure is not enough, right? So you need to understand the needs, the novelty. You need to have something really specific. If not, you'll never get to the high-ranking journals, even if you have the perfect structure and perfect writing. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's something you should keep in mind, of course. You somehow have to stick what are the people used to that you actually cater. The difference in business is, and that's something I always say to the teams, I mean, they all know how to write a paper, and they all know how to write a grant proposal, because they've written quite a few. And in business, you're also asked, especially when you go and look for finance, venture capital banks, to write a business plan. But the difference is, you have to execute on the plan. And even if the circumstances change, which then, in effect, also turn your plan upside down, you have to execute anyways. And that's something you can hardly control. And that is very different, I would say, from science.
Yeah, so it's a little bit the question we had before, right, with the corona topic, that something happens that's so unexpected. And luckily, it did not affect you with your starting point too much, but now it does, because now you don't get the material. Okay. Yeah, you never know what's coming next, exactly. Still, people would love to have practical tips. So I know there's not this one rule and not this one checklist, but you always have some do's and don'ts. Let's put it this way. So I understand from you, do's are, if you feel like the urge is there, the idea is there, talk to others. Get feedback. Then go seek for help and find out with an expert what you could do or rather not do. So from your experience, what tips would you give to the audience? If there's somebody might be there and might want to call him tomorrow. So do you have any tips for them? Like, it can be from your personal experience or what you saw from your colleagues. Do's and don'ts, just spit it out.
Yeah, I think giving us a call would be good, because so the more general, I think talking to more experienced entrepreneurs, or maybe to people who just founded the company 2 or 3 years ago, who already went through this whole progress of being or founding a startup. This really helps, I think. Having good support with different institutions like the DEEP, but also like the local initiatives that are there. So really. Open up also in all the directions, not just focusing on the techniques. So that this was, I think, one important learning, because this gives you a lot of general knowledge. And so we learned a lot in the first 2 years, which we might have never been learned as a researcher, I think. And the second thing would be maybe also try to reflect the decisions. So not being too fast. So fast is important in a startup, definitely, but maybe also go one step back, try to view on it like from above, and is it the real decision? Because wrong decisions could be quite critical in the beginning. And also talk maybe to somebody who doesn't absolutely have your same background.
Okay, so speaking to people who are not like the same, yeah, go for it. So
Yeah.
a little bit at the side, so you have the bird eyes perspective. No,
Yeah, trying to
neutral.
find people who are also maybe more not pessimistic, but
Realistic is
realistic. So like for
Realistic
example,
is the word. Yes.
tax people, for example, usually are.
Okay.
So talk to them, present them your idea, present them your business plan. Are the numbers okay that you plan? Is it realistic from a perspective? So I come from technology. I can see it from technology experience, but I don't have the financial experience or the deep financial experience in the beginning. So maybe also talk to somebody who's completely outside of that area. So what do you think? Do you understand if I tell you what I'm gonna sell? So this is important, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, money issue.
And also
before
maybe to ask the potential customers if they not if they like your product, because of course they like it. I mean, I also like his mirrors, but I don't know what to do with it, so I might not buy him. But the customers to learn about their difficulties, because just they know and they want to write a paper about their real difficulties. So you really have to go in a discussion with them, explain your product, and ask, okay, do you see anything that how it could help you with your challenges? And it was the same to me, that I learned a lot of things in the last year about the potential applications and not applications of our technology, and I think this was really worth it. And also I talked a lot to other people that made startups, and also on different levels, on people that are like in the same position as we 2 or 3 years ahead, and also 10 years ahead. And it's very different, because sometimes you need somebody from outside to reflect you what is really important now. Is it really important to scale up and to buy a lot of machines, or is it now important to focus on to sell the product that you have now? So it changes. There's no right and wrong, but I think this is really important, to have good people around you that you can call and ask, here, do you have any advice? What could I do now?
And asking for feedback in general, I suppose, as we said, somebody from another field, then very concrete, like, should I buy more machines or not? And so, yeah. Just quickly, because Mr. Goodside has to leave soon, maybe he wants to add here, what are his do's and don'ts?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe also regarding to the question from the audience, because if you have no experience, especially in high tech, in high technologies or deep tech, and you want to found a company, you really have to look for someone with experience. Because if you can't answer the questions of the customers with your experience, you won't have good business. But what are the do's and don'ts? What I always say when I'm in rounds of founders or people who want to get founder is you should start working. You should start working on it, and you don't have to plan everything in detail, because this wastes always a lot of time. And have a good plan, but not very in detail, and then start working, and a lot of problems will be solved during the work. Yeah. And I think this is very important, that that you know that you don't have to have always an answer for every problem. This is something you should be This is very important. And what's also important is that you are not afraid. It was already mentioned that you have to talk to other people, and you have to talk to people of different fields. But don't be afraid to cooperate with bigger companies. Don't be afraid to talk to managers of bigger companies. And this is the thing we made in the last months. We went to the bigger companies, and we talked to them, and we showed them what we can do, what's our experience, what's our product. And often it's like they said, oh, this is something we didn't thought it is possible. And this is because the bigger companies, they are always have like slow structures, and they don't really know what's going on in the research, and especially the high tech startups coming out of research. This is a good thing. And and what's also important is the respect for other people, also in other fields and in other positions. I really saw this when I had a talk to an operator in a production in a company, and he was like, oh, this is the CEO of eCeramics and a very important person. And I told him, a couple of months ago, I made the same things like you did, but only in research field. And this was like, this was an first point of contact. And I think this is very important to talk to everyone and to share the experience.
Okay, so we can add to the list, be open, right? Be brave and get it done. Yesterday we already had it with Professor Genzel. For nix kommt nix. So work hard and then you kind of will do it. Thank you for this input. Yeah, I mean, you always hope for this one thing and you say, if I stick to that, then my chances increase. And we already learned a lot now, and I'm looking at you, yes, because you should add to the list. Are there some do's and don'ts? Your favorite ones, come on.
I would stress the fact what all three of them said. Just get started. I mean, it's something you learn whilst you're doing it. And especially in research, you're very much used to plan a lot and plan in a very detailed manner, especially in the space area, I would say. I mean, you've got very long planning horizons and with very detailed timetables. And of course, in terms of the actual business that you'll do, and which is in the same area, you have to still to do that. But with regard of building the business and developing the company, I think it's more important to actually get going from a certain point of view. Because especially as scientists, you're very used in the skill of reflection. And if you get caught in reflection, I mean, you don't go anywhere. And that's, yeah, I can only concur with what the three of them said. That this is one of the most important things, actually, in that kind of respect, to really change your way of thinking a little bit. That you don't have to have the 100% solution. 80% is enough. Maybe sometimes even 50. Maybe if there's something out there, a customer asking you for an offer, it doesn't have to be the perfect thing. Maybe just write back an email saying like, we could do it in 2 weeks' time and would cost about that. Formal offer will follow later. Mm-hmm. Fine for you, and stuff like that. And it's normal that in the beginning things are a little bit chaotic. I mean, you're doing all these things at the same time, and you might have a tax advisory and someone who's doing big bookkeeping, and things don't have to be perfect. But it's important, for example, as an example, keep the bills. Right? You have to keep them in order to actually bring them into your books later on. You have to have them, but it doesn't matter whether you will file them very neatly or whether you've got a shoebox where you put them, and you'll file them when you need them. And I think that's I would think that sometimes scientists might be a little bit prone to being more exact than they actually need with regard to founding a business and developing in it.
I think what also helps is to ask yourself the question, what happens if I don't try it?
Yeah.
So and being a bit naive in the beginning also helps, because you will not know what happened at all. So the problems will come over time. So that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But other people also solved it. So and this always gave me like a good motivation. So why shouldn't we solve it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. If others did.
Yeah, what could happen? It's like, what's the worst thing that could happen, At least you give it a try, and if you have the wish, you're an expert, and then you just go for it.
Yeah, what could be the worst thing? I think if you planned it very detailed, and then maybe your financing partners don't give you the money, then this is at the first step, then really demotivation. then all your plan that you worked on over the last months maybe drops down. But that doesn't mean that you cannot give it a second iteration and maybe improve it, having other partners, maybe adding somebody to the team, and then convincing them, okay, you can do it. And so there is no, or maybe just a few like starting, finish victories. So it's hard work here.
Yeah, real life usually is not like this.
Right.
Straight line is rather a bumpy road here. I have some questions here from the audience, which I would like to forward. Usually, it's not enough to be an expert in technology to found a tech startup. The best teams are diverse. So where can one find the right co-founders who are experienced in, e.g., business and finances or sales? I think kind of you answered it before, but still, maybe you have something to add here.
So I'm not sure if I can answer really good to this question, because in our team particularly knew each other over a long time. But I think we also went through a couple of programs dedicated to startups, like an accelerator program, for example. But I think especially all these other programs, like the incubators, accelerators on the universities at here, the Deep, for example, they can help. So make contact to them, and they know a lot of people. I would answer like this.
Yeah. I think, Nam, you're still with us. Would you like to add something? How was it for you?
Yeah, we all founders of eCeramics come from the same field. We are all engineers. So we have not a diverse team, actually, but we learned a lot in the last months, and I think it's not always important. Maybe if you have an exist program, then it's very important to be very diverse, because it's a rule there. But if you want to make a tech company, I think it's also okay if you have a good network. I think this is more important than to have one in the team who make the business or has experience in marketing. I think more the experience is more important. Yeah, and I have to leave now. So thank you very much for being here. And I hope I gave some good hints for the audience also. And it was very nice to see you again, Matthias, Claudia, Sebastian, and hopefully next time in real. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
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 Yeah, he again mentioned what you all already said, and you before as well, that the network is so important. And you said that you talked to colleagues when you had this idea. So these colleagues, were they, coming back to this question, rather diverse, or were they from your field as well?
No, they were more diverse with another background than mine. But I did this Exist scholarship that Nam mentioned, and we are all technicians. But probably because of my background, I was considered a little bit more the financial whatever.
So you're good with finances?
Yeah, I do the finance, but it's like with Matthias, I do it by heart. I just do it. Yeah. And I have also help from from text people and so on. I think this is really a difficulty for innovative, technology-driven startups to find the right persons that are no technicians, that don't have a technical background. Yeah, so I think people that would like to work with startups like us, that just go there and ask if they need somebody. Most of the time they will need. we also.
Okay, I see many invitations for further talks and networking. That's very good. Yeah, it's interesting, this question, because as you said, co-founders, I think it's kind of easy because you have your network, you know what the other person can do or cannot do, so you try to keep in touch. However, I also understand this fear of, I don't know nothing about finances. How shall I do that? And therefore, if people are afraid of that, do you tell them, okay, find a strong partner if you're insecure, or go make a workshop? Or what do you tell to take away these fears?
What did you say?
I just mentioned then I would outsource it
Yes, exactly.
to hire somebody to do it. They
Okay,
don't
so-
have to be part of the team. They just do the job.
Okay, so that's a possibility. And if somebody would say, okay, outsourcing, that works, and do you have some addresses or that they can just talk to you and say, what experiences do you have?
I would say it depends also, again, it depends on the task. I mean, if it's something like bookkeeping and, doing the books, it's something that could be easily outsourced. That's one thing. The other thing is, I mean, if you are the founder and managing director, as Claudia is and Matthias, you need to learn about the finances because you're the managing director. Even if you're not perfect in it, you do. And I mean, that's the thing. You've found a company and your knowledge and experience grows with the growth of the company. I mean, and you learn whilst doing it again. And I think that's the more important thing, to be open to it, to learn it, to listen to other people, to listen to the lawyers and the tax people and your accountants and so on. Really try to understand it. And then, as I said, develop yourself in different areas as well. That's one thing. It might be different if you opt for the venture capital model from the beginning, because then your relationship, especially with regard to finance, is much more intense. You really have to do the investor relations, and a venture capitalist, they give a lot of money, but they also want to make sure that what you do with the money, and so you have to be in close contact with them over time, and that might be helpful to actually have someone there in the team who does that, because if you come from mechanical engineering or for technical background, you're also involved in you growing the product of the business and developing the product, and it takes time from the actual product development if you have to invest so much time in investor relations. So as I said, it depends on the product, the situation, and the team. And as a more general remark, I like a quote by a professor from the Stanford Business School, Ed Lazier, who says, who did an empirical research project, and who actually found out that the gut feeling of people is more or less correct. Entrepreneurs are jacks of all trades, or Jacquelines of all trades. It's that's part of being an entrepreneur. When you start doing it, you do a bit of everything. In the beginning, sometimes you package the stuff, you put it into your car, you drive to customers, and you do the sales and the distribution, and that's about it. And as you grow, there comes a need for the division of labor and actually specialization and so on. So, and it's good that you do everything yourself in the beginning, because you actually get an overview, and as a team, you do the same as well. So, and I think I think these two can elaborate more on this. It's also part of the identity of the company in the beginning, doing all that together, I don't know, actually doing the distribution, for example, or finding the right facility and then setting the facility up, doing it with your own hands. And that's something you never experienced like that later on, most likely.
So it really is like that in real life, that you really have to go through all these steps? Because I think some people in the audience might think, oh, and if I have my own company, then of course I'm like the boss of the company, I have to organize whatever super important stuff, and other people do other stuff, kind of. But I get what you say, that when you go through this whole process, you value also the different steps, where things go wrong and where you should still work on it. However, you also lose time, because you're doing stuff that theoretically somebody else could do, but the things only you can do, you don't have this time. That when you were just talking, I was wondering, I mean, you're now the high-ranking experts here, and then you are, I don't know, packing stuff. No, you go to your think tank and continue with your great ideas. So isn't that kind of a problem if you're too much hands-on?
I don't think so. I think it's a question of priorities. So if the thing has to be shipped today, and my other colleague is working on a different thing that is also important and has to be shipped tomorrow, then I pack the stuff, clearly.
So you just do what has to be done.
Yeah, so in the beginning, as Sebastian mentioned, it's chaotic. So it is really, and it's also the fun. So it's not just like that's a problem. It's also the fun, and also builds a team spirit. If you do these things together, and if you do things on your own, I think that's self-motivation. Is probably the most important thing. So we drove around whole Germany to get machines from the south, or to get equipment from Berlin, or so. This was also, we did it in our free time, of course. So investing a lot of free time is for sure when you start a company.
So like 9 till 5, doesn't go well together.
No, you
with a
shouldn't
startup?
expect that, I would say.
Good to know. Just in case somebody would like to know this
Yeah,
information as well.
but the structure itself, so then that at some point there will be who's doing the packaging of the things. That should be the goal, of course. But in the beginning, I would expect it's a lot of hands-on. And that's also which brings the fun to me.
So you also had fun packing?
Yeah, but not so much fun to bring it to the post station because it was just so heavy, and all the post stations were closed. So it was really a pain. But I found a solution, because now I know that there's this post boxes where you can go with your cell phone in order to open it. Most
So
people
you
already knew before, but now I know.
So you learn things you need for life in general,
Yes,
and it helps you in
yes.
other fields as well.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, because when you were all talking, it feels like these questions, these general ones, the checking list and the perfect moment, etc., feels like a bit if people are asking you the perfect moment to have a kid, and you're like, there never is this perfect moment. So to my experience, just you have the wish, and if you're lucky, it happens, and if not, well, then you deal with it, and you're not born the perfect mother or perfect father. You just do mistakes, and hopefully everything goes right. But since we have only 3 more minutes left, and in a moment we'll have another discussion rounds, which will be on failure, or things that do not go 100% perfect. We just said sometimes 50% is okay. Would you like to share like one fun fact that happened to you and how you dealt with it? I mean, we already learned the packages were quite heavy, but you managed. Something you would like to share here with the audience? Or did you have this failing? Oh no, you don't want to talk about this big failure, but a tiny one maybe?
Well, that's a tough question. I think so. There's no fun fact that I can present.
So it's no fun to work with him. No, I did not say that. It is fun.
You're
He's still
engineers.
smiling.
Boring.
I see it differently. I think it's great how enthusiastic you are about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think failing is also daily stuff, and nobody, as you are the boss, nobody can give you the issue for that. So, but of course there will happen a lot of failures, and it's not that you make them intentionally. It's just that you maybe don't know about it, and this happens for sure. But I don't think that's a big issue. So if you try to understand it, if you try to maybe avoid the very big mistakes which could harm your whole business, then I think daily failures is part of the job. Very general answer, I know, but
Yeah, but nice one.
yeah.
Add something. Come on.
What was the top failure, Claudia?
She's perfect. Didn't you see it? But that's exactly the point. We just learn by doing. And yes, there are failures, and hopefully, I mean, if it's the big, horrible thing, then of course you have to live with the consequences. But still, I think to sum it up, it's like, go for it, be brave, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
I think so. I mean, you have to judge this somehow, right? So it's not that you have 100 trials. That's for sure. So so judging the risk, but this is like you do that any day. So
And maybe you should have real friends around you that support you. For me, I have a family. I have 2 kids, so my parents and my husband do most of the work with my kids, of course. There's less time than I used to have. before. And yeah, also with other things, it's if you have questions because of a contract, it's for sure good if you have somebody that just looks over it and says, yeah, you should really go to grab a lot of money to go to a proper lawyer, or it's okay, you can sign it, something like this. Or people that help you with the tax stuff, and I think this is important.
Thank you very much. Great insights we got here from you. I noted some. I just, I mean, the order is like complete chaotic. And if I say something wrong, you say like, "Meh," okay? Okay, first of all, I learned, get started. Yes, make a good plan, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need 100% from the very beginning. But yes, you need to be an expert in your field, and you need to know your audience, meaning your customers. There's always in life, know your audience, super important. Because if you know what they want, then you know how to talk to them and what you can offer them, right? So what is in for them? What can you bring? Of course, networking, on one hand, on the professional level, meaning look out for people who are in different fields, learn from them, and you get them some information. Network also to find colleagues, co-founders, and find people who help you, let's say even with a tax or something, or give you a tip who could help you. Talk to people, also on the private level, super important to have just your network, to feel safe, to get everything done, because it is challenging. It takes a lot of time. You have to be brave. Get the perspective also from others. So hopefully you have super good friends who also tell you when something goes wrong. I think this is a very important job of good friends and family. I think that's all in my list. Was it correct? Did I sum it up good?
I didn't make me, so it's fine.
Thank you very much to the audience. Thanks to you for participating, for giving us these insights. And if I understood you all correctly, you're open to network with people. So if somebody has questions, they can come to all of you and search for help.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So we'd be happy to join the conversations and to get some questions maybe, or just go to the dialogue.
And also people searching for a job can check out our
Yeah, for sure. So
our web pages.
working in a startup is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It seems so. You seem like happy people to me. I think so. Okay. So we are already with the time 2 minutes ahead. Thank you very much for your interest. I know you all have many more questions, but you know how to find them. Just look in the speakers list. And I would quickly like to highlight the parallel program. So you could take a part now in the parallel program and visit the career fair to meet the representatives from different companies. You may also use again the networking space and make appointments with them and find more corporate and career sessions, for example, with Jena Optik and meet there Romy Beer, or with ADVA and Michael Eiselt. And we will now have a very tiny break of 5 minutes and then continue here with the results of the Lichtwerkstatt. Thanks again to you. Thanks to you in the audience. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here.